Okay. So I'm going to talk about the overall aim of the bid that we have made to our diocese, and then Rob will talk more about how we're hoping to achieve that aim. The good news is that we are seen by the diocese as a lively parish. The fact that we've been growing steadily in numbers and have a clear strategy for growth is something that's caught their attention. And it takes quite a lot to catch their attention, because this is also a time when some people who work for the diocese are being made redundant. So to actually get backing at this time is quite difficult. But we presented them with 3 areas that we felt demanded action. Firstly, we had in Rob someone who God was using to help lead people to faith and to build them up as disciples. And it was surely madness to let him go. Secondly, we have a church at Holmer that quite often gets close to looking full on a Sunday morning service. With numbers growing and new houses coming, we needed to think what we're going to do. Thirdly, a large new estate is planned on the edge of our parish, the Three Elms estate. It could be well over 1,000 houses. New houses are also being planned in our parish on the Cannon Pine Road, and there may also be a new housing estate to the west of the Hereford Point estate, the one that's being built at the moment. Also, a large part of the existing Bobblestock estate is quite a long way away from Holmer Church. All this means that there is great opportunity for a new church. Huntington Church is in the right place, but it's already 60% full. It has room for about 20 more. And it's not an easy church, and that's putting it mildly, to extend or to include children's groups. There was a really strong case for thinking about a new church, not necessarily a new church building, but a new church perhaps meeting in a new community hall on the proposed Three Elm estate. The diocese agreed with our thinking and are willing to back us financially to the tune of well over 100,000, and this is to do with Rob's salary over the coming years. They're also keen to learn with us as we go on this exciting venture of church planting. They're hoping that we can learn some lessons that will be valuable elsewhere in the diocese. And for those of you that have been in Hereford for some time, recent history has not been strong in terms of the ventures that the diocese has been engaged in. St Barnabas would be one. Was it St Francis's south of the river? Would be another example of 2, in a sense, church plants that didn't particularly work for all sorts of reasons. Church planting, however, can be very effective, but it is difficult. One of the things that helps enormously is to have a core team. And our bid envisages a team of around 20 to 25 people going from Holmer Church with Rob to plant a new church. We're still quite a way away from this, as the new housing hasn't even been fully agreed yet, but it could be that they'll start building in a couple of years' time. A lot of national studies suggest that you want to be ready as soon as the first houses are built, and we would look to the diocese to provide an early house for Rob on the new estate. So we've got a couple of years or so to get ready, and we mustn't waste that time, and Rob soon will be talking about some of our plans. Now, hopefully by the time the estate is started, Holmer Church will have grown sufficiently that a group leaving to plant a new church will not badly weaken the parish church. Though there will be a great pain in the parting, but there will be many events that still bind us all together. Another important part of the bid was that we as a church would plant a new midweek congregation. This will be a lively midweek service that will meet in this building here. We hope to launch this in autumn 2020. It will be aimed at serving the whole of Hereford. There's nothing like it being provided elsewhere, and yet I think there's a real need. For so many people, for a whole variety of reasons, the weekend is a very difficult or pressured time, often making church work very patchy, if not impossible. This is especially so for those coming new to faith. Rob and I think that many other people might also be attracted to midweek worship. It's a venture of faith. There's no guarantee of success, but we want to give it our best shot. And over the coming months, we'll be planning for the launch. And do have words with me if you've got any particular thoughts about this midweek service. As Holmer Church grows in the coming years, then the diocese will look to us to increase our financial giving to the diocese to help contribute towards the cost of them employing Rob as well as me and towards the future. The diocesan financial help in this bid is for 4 years. Rob becomes the Associate Vicar for Discipleship. Associate Vicar because sadly he's no longer my assistant, but an equal partner with equal status to me. I will be responsible for much of the day-to-day administration of the parish, including the occasional offices, baptisms, weddings, funerals, and the pastoral side, but not exclusively so. Whereas Rob, again not exclusively so, will be focusing on discipleship, leading people to Jesus and helping them to mature in their faith. That's all from me. Rob.
Thanks, Stephen. Let's shuffle out the way of the screen. Right, so our vision, our strategy for growth. This church, and by inverted commas church, we do mean all of us, everyone in this parish. We are the body of Christ and the instrument of his ongoing mission here in Holmer. I hope you will agree with me on that. Now, with God's blessing, this church can and will continue to grow. How and why? I want to briefly sketch out 4 practical reasons why, and then an all-important 5th reason. 1. As far as we can, we are going to try to cater for all. Men, women, children, from the youngest to the oldest. We've got ministries in place to reach out to all people. Sadly not the best technological facilities, but we'll work on that. Now there's some very firm foundations for growth that's already in place here. For example, thanks largely to Christine Price and her team, Busy Bees has been going for 25 years, which is a phenomenal achievement in itself. Through that and baptisms that's a regular pipeline of baptisms, we've got regular contact with a very healthy number of mums and tots. And we're now about to try to reach out to dads too in a very similar way. This coming Saturday, we're launching our first Who Let the Dads Out session. And I didn't realise, for those who were here Sunday, I couldn't work out why you were laughing at me. I thought my flyers were undone, and it was just the name Who Let the Dads Out. The penny does sometimes drop very late with me. I only worked it out when I got home, or I think actually Sally had to tell me later on. Anyway, enough digression. Now that Who Let the Dads Out and its plan and the way we're mapping out and what we're trying to do is going to be drawing on much that's been successful and proven to be successful by Busy Bees. But it's going to be focused on trying to develop relationships with the men in our parish. We've also got an excellent relationship with the Holmer Academy School that I'm sure most of you know about, and the children there. Our Open the Book team, I know there's some members of our Open the Book team that's also here tonight, do a wonderful job They go in and we do assemblies and perform Bible stories for children's assemblies once a fortnight in that school. And that really helps to strengthen the bond of relationship that we have there with that school. From that, we've been able to set up an after-school Bible club for those of primary school age. This is going well. We're now actively discipling several primary school children every week on a Wednesday afternoon, one of whom we actually baptised in a church service last year. This year, with Jane Tate, we've also started a youth group for those of secondary school age. This is showing promising signs of growth as well, to the degree that in the new year we plan to double the sessions that we run, taking it from monthly to fortnightly. At the other end of the age spectrum, thanks to Barbara Briggs and her dedicated team, I know many of those are here as well. There's too many of you to mention by name, but you know who you are. The over 60s lunches continue to be extremely popular. Now, this is not just providing an important social provision, but it's also providing spiritual provision. Once a month, we then invite those that attend those lunches to join us next door for a communion service. And the most recent service attracted record numbers. So as a church, we are trying to cater and offer something for everyone. Now, Stephen has already spoken about how we're next looking to do exactly that with our services through providing a Wednesday evening service in the coming year. Here's the point. If you give people options, the more people will opt in. And I think there's every reason for us to think that the numbers opting in are only going to increase. Okay, secondly, we're going to reach out to the new communities. Now, by that I mean the new estates that Stephen has mentioned that are being built and are going to be built in earnest in the coming years. Now, precisely when, where and how we're going to do this, the reaching out, that's definitely something that we want to discuss as a church, all together as a church. So with exactly that in mind, we are planning to have an open meeting in the new year, where we can brainstorm together how might be the best ways of reaching out to these new estates that are there now in the Hereford Point and are then going to be built. The meeting we're going to have in the new year, we're going to be thinking about the Hereford Point. So, for example, by the middle of next year, there's going to be a large play area that is scheduled and will have been built on that Hereford Point estate. Do we have a summer barbecue there? Do we go door to door offering prayer? Do we plan to do Christmas carols there with mulled wine and mince pies this time next year? Do we go there at Easter delivering Easter eggs? I could go on, but I don't want to preempt that meeting. These are the sort of things that we want to have an open meeting to discuss. So do look out for details of that meeting early next year, and do please join us and come along. Third, we are going to reach even more of the online community. Now, if you're something of a technophobe, do close your ears now if you begin to find what I'm going to say now to be gobbledygook. Increasingly, the face of the entire world is online. More people engage online than they do in the flesh. The face, inverted commas, of the church, of any church, is today online via websites and social media sites before it's anything else. Now, our online presence has increased considerably in recent years. So much so that those following us on Facebook has increased tenfold. 3.5 years ago, there were around 25 people that followed us on Facebook. There's now over 250. The majority of which do not regularly attend church on a Sunday. We launched on Instagram only about 2 months ago. We already have 50 followers there. Around half of these followers are unique. In other words, they don't follow us on Facebook or regularly attend church. Trust me when I say this. To give you two very recent examples, the popularity of both the recent Christmas fair and the numbers that we booked for the Advent activities are both reflections of our increased online presence. What this means is we have, and we will continue to have, an ever-increasing pool of people who know us, have engaged with us in some way, yet in some senses they still remain on the fringe. The goal then is to find ways of drawing them in from that fringe, fully into the life of the church, and ultimately, obviously, into a living, active faith with Jesus Christ himself. That's the goal. And that's precisely why we're striving to offer as much as we do, and something for everyone as far as we can. And it's also why Alpha is a fundamental part of what we do. And a lot of people here have done Alpha in some way, shape or form. It's a fundamental part of what we do and will be going forward. What can you do? If you do engage online, I'm not saying you all do or you all have to, far from it. But if you do, if you either have a Facebook account or an Instagram account, do engage online with our church. On Facebook, for example, do follow our church and then like our posts that we put up. Because when you do that, and you do that regularly, that means that more and more of your friends on these social media platforms, more and more of your friends on Facebook, will see our church pages and our content. And that will enable our fringe to continually grow. And that fringe is the pool of people that we're going to be working towards drawing into a relationship with Christ. Fourth, as we grow, the more we're going to be seeking to nurture and release leaders from within. Quite simply, the more leaders that we can unearth and equip from within this church, from among you, the more we will be able to do as a church. At the same time, the greater impact we, as Christ's disciples, can make beyond the church in our daily lives too. Now, a focus on discipleship is at the heart of this. One of the ways that God has been blessing us in recent years is in the growth of home groups. We now have, I think, a good majority of our church in a home group. Probably most of you here, I would say, are likely to be in a home group. In many respects, these are as important, equally as important in fact, as gathering as a church on a Sunday. Now, I'm not saying that's not important. I and Stephen, I'm sure would agree with me, believe that's very, very important. The gathering of Christians together in whatever form is absolutely crucial. But it's equally important in our home groups, because it's where in those home groups that we can grow as disciples together in a deeper way. Those that are in home groups, I'd like to think you can amen me, and not out loud, but would know what I'm saying and can agree with what I'm saying. If you do agree with what I'm saying, it means we're doing something right in these home groups and they're working. Because it should be there that bonds get stronger with one another in a way that can happen more than can happen on a Sunday morning alone. It's where we can spur one another on, both in our walk with Christ and on our front lines. So we're going to continue to focus on our home groups and in supporting home group leaders. And it's from a focus on discipleship within these groups that I'm pretty sure that our future leaders are going to emerge. Also, in the latter part of next year, we're going to be starting our Growing Leaders course. We're going to be looking to identify perhaps a dozen men and women who feel a sense of calling to commit to this course that's going to take place over the course of a whole year. And we're also going to be looking, as well as that, to another dozen people who can act as mentors to those that are undertaking this course. This course will help develop leaders, those already in leadership roles, and those emerging as leaders, those leading in their Monday to Saturday lives, and those leading groups already within the gathered life of the church. In other words, it aims to equip people to lead both in their home, community, school, workplace, as well as to lead when the church gathers, be it in small groups or as a whole church on a Sunday. We're going to be saying a lot more about this when we launch the course later on next year. But it really looks like an exciting and empowering course to be a part of. Now, through both of those areas, home groups and our Growing Leaders course, the aim is going to provide the training and means for a pipeline of leaders to emerge from this church. Okay, last but not least, and then we can grab a cuppa. I've got to say this, and this probably should be number one in the list, because it really is. We as a church will grow if we as individuals grow. Just very quickly to say. What do I mean by that? If we as individuals within the body of Christ grow increasingly closer in our walk with Christ and to one another, then God, I'm sure, will continue to bless our church. Just as there is one body, so we must be of one heart and mind for Christ and his mission. That has to be the foundation. If we do that, I'm sure we will continue to bear fruit. That's enough of us. I do thank you for listening. My hope and prayer is that much of what we've said, Stephen and I, that it makes sense, and that I hope and pray that God has been stirring you and speaking to you in some way. God bless. Let's grab a cuppa, shall we?